Yeah, so I click, it's going live.
Yeah. Yes, are we ready?
Hello. Yes, sir. So we can start.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and a very good afternoon to all the attendees. Hope everyone is safe and wishing you all good health. My name is Shaheen, and I will be the moderator for today's prestigious event. Welcome to the first edition of MediaFluent, a panel discussion where we connect with industry professionals to get a deeper understanding of the Indian media industry. This program is brought to you by the students of St. Joseph's Advertising and Public Relations Department. St. Joseph's College, Bangalore is one of the oldest and most reputed institutions in Karnataka, with over 139 years of history backing its excellence in education. The Advertising and Public Relations course is relatively a new addition to the institution's elite course options. Started in 2019, ours is the second batch. The pioneer batch have already been placed successfully in the industry. The course is about in-depth knowledge of advertising and its components, public relations and its workings. This also includes practical knowledge about media, media agencies, and its planning and buying process. Without further ado, let me start by introducing our panelists. Today, we have with us Mr. Kishan Kumar, the Chief Growth Officer of Wavemaker. He is a MICA graduate and communication professional with 16 plus years of experience in the field. He has been part of the team that has created business impacting work for key clients like Titan Company, Britannia, Google India, and many more. He is also the recipient of several prestigious awards such as Cannes, Festival of Media Global Goals, and several more. We also have with us today Ms. Riya Joseph, Head of Media and Strategy for Britannia India, who has worked on both agency and client side of the business. With over 17 years experience with companies like Madison World, Mindshare, and ITC Limited, she brings with her expertise in media strategy, innovations, investments, and planning. Our third panelist, Mr. Nagesh Manay, is the owner and CEO, Strategy and Planning of OpusCDM, a full-service agency operational since 1999, with clients like Epson, Seiko, Simply Sofas, Nordic Kitchens, among others. In their client portfolio, they have carved themselves a specialized niche in brand development, communication, product development, and business policy, largely in the luxury product segment. Last but not the least, we have with us Ms. Mona Thangaraj, Head of Talent Acquisition for Group M, a Delhi University graduate with 2 decades of working in companies like Yahoo, Google, Zomato, Uber, and many more prestigious companies. She worked across geographies in the US and India in the world's most iconic technology companies and has now entered the world of media and brands. Thank you all for being here, for joining us today. Before we proceed with our discussion, I would like to request Dr. Father Richard Rego to say a few words.
Yeah. Good evening, dear friends, and a hearty welcome to you to this MediaFluent 21. This is an event meticulously put together by our advertising and public relations students, as well as their mentor, Miss Seema. Life is not a fair to get used to it. So believe in keep doing things differently. And here we are with a new event, MediaFluent 2021. This is a rare event brought live by a bunch of energetic, wonderful students who love to do things differently. This time, under the inspiration of their mentor, Ms. Seema, they decided to connect with the industry leaders, to learn from them, to help us all connect with the industry. I'm sure all of you will enjoy this evening with our esteemed panel from the industry. Ms. Mona Thangaraj, India Head Talent Acquisition from Group M. Mr. Kishan Kumar Shyamalan, Chief Growth Officer, Wavemaker. Ms. Riya Joseph, Media Head, Britannia Industries. And Mr. Nagesh Manay, CEO and Strategy Planning, OpusCDM. For of course, Nagesh, it is a homecoming, virtual homecoming to his alma mater, St. Joseph's College. I hope this is the first of many connections to Institute of Communication and Media Studies at St. Joseph's College. To all of you, dear esteemed panel, a hearty welcome to you. Institute of Communication and Media Studies at St. Joseph's College is 13 years old. Over the years, it has grown a lot. Today, it offers 2 master's programs in journalism and mass communication, the oldest of the lot, and in advertising and public relations, the youngest of the lot. Then there are 3 undergraduate programs, Bachelor in Visual Communications, and 2 BVOC programs, that is in filmmaking and animation, all 3-year programs. I welcome all our faculty, staff, and students to this MediaFluent 2021. I want to specially make a mention of Ms. Seema, the inspiration behind this event, and the first-year students of advertising and PR who have made it possible for all of us to meet here virtually. There are, of course, here many of our students, friends, and teachers and well-wishers who have joined us on YouTube Live. I welcome all of them, and especially our own St. Joseph's College community. So I wish you a happy and meaningful evening. Have a good evening. Over to you, Jamila.
Thank you, Dr. Father Rigo, for that warm welcome to our panelists. Let's begin. So I wish you all the best, and please brace yourself because there are a lot of questions coming your way today. So my first question is directed to Mr. Kishan and Ms. Riya. From what we saw, media is more about number crunching. Is that correct?
Riya, you want to go first?
Sure, thank you. So yes, Shaheen. So I would say media has got a lot to do with numbers, of course, you know, and you need to have certain kind of numbers talking to you and all of those things. But I wouldn't say crunching because there are lots of tools now which are available to actually crunch all the numbers. I would definitely say it's, you know, those numbers which actually talks to you should also give you some perspective to give back to the brands. And that's what media planning does, or whether it's media strategy, media planning, media analytics, all of those things. What it gives back to the brands is the perspective that a human being who has got some experience is going to give back to the brands. So that's what it is. It's not about number crunching, but it's got a lot of numbers. And added to that, there is a whole lot of responsibility that you have, you know, in spending the lakhs and crores of money that, you know, the brand is entrusting you with. So from that perspective, that's money, not really numbers. So that's the kind of responsibility a media planner has.
Okay.
Kishan.
Yeah, so it's one of the largest industries, right? It's media and advertising is roughly about 90,000 crores. It's a large industry, so it's not at all a small industry. Hence, the numbers will happen, right? Numbers is extremely integral to it. But my view is that, like Riya said, I strongly, and this is my strong belief, that there is a there's an art and a science part to it, right? Of course, what like Riya said, connecting to consumers and reaching out to them starts with numbers in terms of understanding and all of that. But I think the art part is extremely important, right? Because we are not looking at people as numbers in Excel sheets, right? And that's probably the mistake that all of us will do going forward. And if you look at, especially in the last few years, where the science part of it is becoming more and more process driven and tools driven and data driven and all of that, the art is extremely becoming more and more important, because finally what advertising and media does is to give a consumer a strong reason to make a decision, right? Whether it is a product or a service, and how much ever you are dependent on the number of it, number part of it, or the science part of it, the art has to happen. So as professionals who are just about to get into this industry, I would strongly urge that the art part, keep the art part alive, and the number will follow, right? The number is easy to do, and the art is what is more difficult. And in a country like ours, with so many languages, so many cultures and subcultures and all of that, because finally it's all rooted in culture. And I can give you an example. We were doing a work for a brand called Mother Dairy in Delhi, and we were trying to do a campaign for ghee, and it's such a difficult product to sell because it doesn't have too much to talk about, right? And when we did a campaign with one of the leading voices called Zakir Khan, who's a very famous stand-up comedian. The decision to arrive at Zakir was very number driven, because we found out that he has a great affinity in the Hindi speaking belt and all of that. But what moved consumers is the art of it, right? He spoke about Maa Ke Haath Ka Khana and how much he misses, because he's sitting in Delhi and his mom is sitting somewhere in UP, and he asked his mother, why didn't you teach me cooking? You know, I never knew that I'm going to get into a situation where I'll be boxed in a room and I will not know how to cook and all of that, right? And what it did was, it didn't sell ghee, it actually sold what a brand stood for, right? So the art is extremely important, and increasingly the art is what is losing out. So I would urge all of you to get the art right. Numbers will take care of itself.
So keep the creative person in you on
yeah, I mean, this is my strong view. This has always brought me more success than the number.
Right.
Nobody remembers numbers. Yeah, who remembers numbers?
Right.
The emotion, the feeling is what you're left with, right? And that's art. So yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Nagesh and Mr. Kishan, again, this for you. How has media consumption changed from when you started in this business? Yeah, anybody can go first.
Okay.
I'm taking hands.
Would you like me to go first?
Yeah,
Or,
go ahead.
Please.
I'm a good non-striker.
Okay. There's a lot to that, of course. Now, when I started is it's a very questionable date, but going back, I think what's most significant for me is media was really about family, wasn't it? We used to sit around the television and watch the Prudential World Cup.
Yeah.
And before that, it was radio. That's one of the interesting things I think that we're seeing emerge in the country today, but is some form of community radio. There's a lot of it going on, which is very under the radar, but there is a fair amount of it going on, and that's nice to see. But otherwise, it was so mainstream. And 99, 2000, around that period, right, when the internet just started settling itself, and of course, we had to type in on a black screen our queries and get data and take printouts, because that was the only way it worked. Things were very different. I think what's changed is we've also gone from being community to individual, right? And that's because of the way access has changed. And information and entertainment and the way we are accessing each has also dramatically shifted. So looking back to that period, newspapers were everything, and television was as well. Television still is today, although we're seeing a decline in print, of course, but we're far too diverse, as Kishan said. And we have so much transition going on, switching between levels due to changes in income, and all of that, we're going to see a very interesting potpourri of different kinds of media coexisting. We're seeing it in other countries as well, but I think over here it's going to be very, very significant because of languages and because of the way our towns and cities are evolving. Information has become commoditized, and I think that's interesting. One thing that we couldn't do back then was, you see, we are news today, right? We make the news today. We can take a picture of something happening and share it, and it just moves from there. But that was not the case back then, right? So people had a similar platform to access information and entertainment. And today you can choose your platforms, and I think that's the biggest change, and that will lead to a fair amount of behavior change. So from community, it has become individual, and I think that's the biggest shift. Just to put it into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, totally agree with you. And a lot of the shift that's happening is because of that, right? I mean, we have been a single TV household country to 5 screens, 8 screens in a family sort of a country, right? Yeah, I think adding to that, I think there are some fundamental shifts that have happened, but if you actually really look at it, it's more of format change than anything else, right? So I'll explain that. So fundamental shifts could be like we moved away from analog to digital, right? In everything, right? In television or print or anything you take, right? There is an analog life to a digital transformation that has happened, and there has been a lean back to a lean forward sort of a thing, right? You read the newspaper at 7 or 8 or whatever time, and you're just relaxed, and that's what media used to do, right? And today you are lean forward, right? You are watching television, and you're watching IPL, and you are texting on the WhatsApp cricket group and all of that. So it's more lean forward. There's more engagement that is happening. So there are multi-activity happening and all of that. That's the second aspect of it. The third aspect of it, which again Nagesh said, is that because it was community and all of that, it was very pure play entertainment or information led with no other agendas, so to say, right? Today you don't know, right? There are too many subtexts going on and all of that. So, and with it, the transformation is that there was a huge amount of liking and faith and trust on media, and on the other hand, now there is a lot more. While the engagement has gone up, maybe time spent has gone up. I don't know how much of the trust factor has gone up. Debatable, but right. So that is some of the fundamental shifts. However, I think it's more of a format change. It's supposed to happen. It will happen. Every generation goes through that. So there were too many people who were listening to radio. Now there are 80 million of us listening to podcasts. It's just fundamentally it's the same, right? I mean, it's just the form factor has changed from one thing to the other. The 15-20 minutes that you spent on reading a newspaper has moved to just looking at snapshots or capsules of news on digital as a format. So I mean, that's the form factor has changed, and it will keep changing, right? And that's how I see it. But I think fundamental to all of it is that it is supposed to entertain and inform, and that continues to. And that is why it is important for an advertiser or a professional in this field, right? Because the job that it does is still relevant, and in fact more so, I think, because I'm sure everybody in this panel will agree that earlier media used to be a backroom function. It was the last 5 slides of a presentation. Today you kick off with media because the media actually gives you or empowers you with far more information about your consumer, data or otherwise, or qualitative, right? Art or science. But it gives you so much of information that it becomes a starting point today for many brands and clients, and the comms sort of works around it, right? So that's the way I put it, right? So fundamental shifts, but there are only form factor change, and the core has not the core of the core reason hasn't changed, I guess, and it will evolve. So maybe 5 years down the line, if you sit here, it would be something else, right? And nobody will be searching. It'll be just voice. If you're asked somebody to write anything, they probably won't know anything. So yeah, so that's how it is.
Adding Miss Riya into this, how has the pandemic changed Indian media consumption? And once the pandemic is over and we are back to normal life and working system, do you think the changes would stick, or would we go back to how things were pre-pandemic?
Okay, so I'm going to take a cue from whatever Kishan said, right? Because the whole media or media planning that we have known till now is all about entertainment, and entertainment has been evolving over a period of time, right? So I think during pandemic we actually saw an accelerated change in the way we consume entertainment. Okay, so whether it is about TV, from a DD, if you look at it, they actually brought in Mahabharata and Ramayana and all of that because there were lots of people sitting at home consuming content, right? Then you look at all the OTT guys, right? Whoever could lean into a global library, they brought in all the global content in. Whoever could actually do even maybe a low budget kind of content, that's what they did. Then there is a lot of social media which has also come in, and if you look at it, TikTok was also of course getting very, very popular. We clamped it down, but I think that also gave way to Reels and Moj and all of that. Then now we have a whole slew of others like a Clubhouse or any of those guys who keeps coming in. And I think these are all probably changes, and of course we should not mention share chat and like a Hello English and all of that. So I think the whole regional content also has seen a resurgence, and these were all probably coming along, but pandemic has really accelerated this. So that's what I would say has actually been the biggest change in entertainment and media. Along with that, I think one peculiar thing was also that all these A-listers like a Shilpa Shetty and all of those guys have also become influencers now. Okay, we don't see them in probably Bollywood movies, but they have like some 21 million followers on Instagram. They're and they all carve out their own niches, right? Shilpa is in the health space, Samira Reddy is in the motherhood space and all of those things. So these are probably changes which would have happened in normal course maybe in about 5 years time, but this pandemic has really accelerated it. Now if you go forward, and we all hope that pandemic is going to get over soon, today if possible, but definitely soon, the traditional media which actually took a slight backseat during pandemic, like a cinema or an outdoor or a print, etc. I'm hoping that they will also come back, and especially cinema, because I think that is an experience. It's not just about entertainment or any of those things, right? It's your downtime with your family where you go and all of you go and do that. So I'm hoping that there is a resurgence there. Some of the readership of print is probably going to still get eroded, because I think even people like us who used to read newspaper in the morning, I think now are probably addicted to an InShots or a Daily Hunt or any of those things. So I don't know. I don't see the swing back that prominent, but I think cinema, outdoor, all of that will continue. And I'm hoping that there will be a resurgence. Along with that, whatever momentum that OTT and social media got, I don't think they're going to slow down. It's just going to keep continuing, but maybe not in the 2021 momentum, but there is still going to be momentum.
Yeah.
Okay, so pandemic, it's very interesting because I think it has been the most exciting and testing times for people in the agency or the marketing side or the advertising side, right? I mean, it's undoubtedly, there's this joke that the chief transformation officer in your company is the pandemic. So what we were planning for the next 5 years of probably would have happened in the last 12, 13, 14 months, right? So it has completely changed the way we are behaving. And there are some 3-4 large sort of observations here, right? One is that definitely there are newer habits that is created when it comes to media consumption in general, right? I mean, you will see that there are a lot of newer habits that is created. So in the case of media consumption also, I think there are a lot of newer habits that is created. People have come out of their comfort zones. Like my mom is now not dependent on television to catch up her daily content, right? Whether it is films or daily soap and all of that. In fact, she's worried that some of the content is stopped because of the pandemic. So she's finding alternate ways of getting in, so newer habits across, right? Whether it is kids, 8-year-old kids, or elderly and everybody in between. Second, I think, is that people have started experimenting related to the first point, right? So experimentation has happened. So again, this all mirrors in consumer behavior, right? Experimentation. So you can see more chefs and more photographers and more singers and more all of that. But you'll also see that the same kind of experimentation mindset has gone to, for example, I see a lot. I can see that a lot of non-Mallu friends asking me which are the best Malayalam movies to watch on OTTs, or people are getting to, you can see 45, 50-year-olds trying to look at the short video platforms. People are doing podcasts, and so there is a whole lot of experimentation that is happening. The another thing is that hopefully it's a good thing is that Indians are so used to getting everything for free, right? Good content. We wanted everything for free. So if you are used to pay the cable bill of 200 rupees, you wanted every single possible channel, whether you are watching it or not. And today, at some point, you are for good content, you have to pay something, right? And India as a market, it's very, very advertising dependent market compared to some of the Western markets where it's more subscription, where the consumers pay for quality content. And today, I think we are slowly moving towards that. I have a long way to go, but I think it's good that if you want to watch a good film or on an OTT platform, and if they are giving you an offer of a subscription, then people don't mind taking it because they want content. So I think those are good parts. And I think and some of the things which is connecting all of this is also the power of regional, right? Earlier, this industry, media, advertising, marketing, all of that was too dependent on probably 2 languages, at best 3, 4. Now today, there is a resurgence of regional in everything, right? In media. So there are enough and more comfortable people in millions who don't go to Facebook or Instagram, but have a regional equivalent of a social platform there. And people express, people search, people, all of that in regional. And that is also reflecting in the number of OTTs that is coming up in regional or anything for that matter, right? So, or cricket is served in 12 languages in the country. Never used to, happen 3 years back, right? So that regional, the resurgence of regional, and a lot of people use the word vernacular. I don't want to use the word vernacular. Probably that is not the right word. The word is Indic or regional. So the resurgence of regional is a great thing in the pandemic. And I think all of this is going to stay. I think I was speaking to a friend of mine who's in the film business, and they are all worried. The entire film industry is worried because they don't know now what will happen, when will theaters open up and all of that. But amidst that concern and all of that, there is also a whole lot of optimism that, if you have a powerful story to tell, people will accept it because the platform is not a problem anymore. So I think all of this is moving towards the right thing. I think most of the ones which the pandemic has created are probably irreversible in that sense, right? So it's very unlikely that a large generation will go back to reading the newspaper in the morning because they are so used to getting news in a certain way, and more so now. A lot of them have stopped watching news because of the pandemic, because there's too much of negativity, and that probably is going to be irreversible because, so I think, but the good aspects are all going to stay. Experimentation, I hope, is going to stay. Newer habits are going to get better and better, and all of that. So I think that's good. And from a brands and advertisers point of view, I think it is probably the good. It's while on social side probably should not have happened at all, but from a brand and advertiser point of view, it is good that a lot of things which were kept in the back room or in the back seat is now coming into the forefront, right? You need to now get better at a lot of things. So that's good. I think that's great. I think that's something which will continue.
Hopefully. Miss Mona, in relation to pandemic, can you tell us that in these unprecedented times, how do you strive to keep your employees motivated so that they remain on top of the game? And more importantly, how do you stay motivated?
So Shaheen, if I may change the question a bit,
Yeah,
instead
so
of saying in these unprecedented times, how do we keep ourselves motivated? It's more about how do we keep ourselves sane, right? So I think sanity is what's been affected more than anything else.
right.
Because before the physical routine that we used to follow, of getting ready, getting into our cars, going into work, physically meeting with people, interacting with them, now all of that has turned into an online platform, right? Where even when you would walk over to a person's desk to have a conversation with them, now that has turned into a conversation online, which towards the end of the day gets taxing because you're not having that human interaction anymore. You know, it's all through conversations on the phone, on Teams, on Zoom, on Google Meets, and you're not really seeing how the person is feeling. So, you know, we've done a whole lot of things with regards to mindful wellness and, and Kishan's aware of all those we've created circle of supports where we're trying to, help people with the different problems that we foresee they might be going through, be it, suffering from COVID or be it, just feeling down and not feeling motivated enough. So from, that standpoint, we're trying to do a lot. But ultimately, I always feel, and, I think this is something that us as humans keep forgetting, is that it's not about really hearing, but end of the day, it's about listening. Are you really listening to your people? Are you really listening to the conversations? Or while you're having that conversation, are you busy on your phone texting? Because then you're just hearing, you're not really listening. So you need to be there. You need to hear the cues as to who's feeling upset or who needs that pep talk or who just needs to have someone around so that they can talk and be heard.
So, just continuing to the last bit, do you keep yourself like an open door policy of they can just come and talk to you if they're feeling down or if they're...
Absolutely. I think it is very, very critical to be always available. At least for my team, I'm always available. I love talking. So that's the reason why, I'm always available at any given point of time. If anyone wants to reach out to me, they can. I try to read cues, right? So I try to see who's feeling upset or where they are at in terms of mind space. And I try to address that. It's something as simple as sending a message to your colleague saying, hey, you've been doing a great job. So thank you for everything that you do. We just don't appreciate people enough. And I think that is very critical. And it just brightens their day, or in the morning, reaching out to someone or messaging Kishan and saying, hey, Kishan, you're doing great. The white beard looks phenomenal on you. Keep that look. It's just about bringing smiles to people's faces as much as you can.
Yeah, that's really important, especially with everything that is going around today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Miss Riya and Mr. Nagesh, can you talk to us a little about how the media will be evolving, say, 5 years down the line?
Riya, please. You're far more suited for this one than I am.
Oh, no.
Please.
Well, crystal gazing was not really my forte, but let's just see. Okay, so I would say, after the whole growth in the last 1 or 2 years that we have seen, I think anybody would be shuddering to give a perspective for 5 years from now. But I would say the one thing that probably will come in and in big force to media is probably AI, artificial intelligence. So, that's anyway taking over all, roads of our lives, right? So I think AI is definitely going to be much more involved in media from now onwards. And it's already started, right? Anyway, a lot of the D2C brands seem to be using AI quite a bit, right? And they seem to know which are the guys to target and which are the guys who will keep, buying their products, etc. And I have a feeling that AI is probably going to be much more mainstream. A lot of advertisers are going to adopt that into their marketing strategies, especially the moment you have to over-index on digital spends, etc. And a lot of the marketing guys are also going to get into D2C much more. And during that time, AI and analytics are the two things which are probably going to help us all sail through for the next, I think, 5 years and hence. So that's about it, Nagesh.
So I think, obviously, as Kishan said, and as Riya has put it as well, the gap is really closed, right? And what we thought might be an evolution. What's important, I think, is that a lot of media is obviously being driven by how products and services are served. And that has dramatically changed, right? We're seeing a lot of luxury brands having to get online with no option but having to get online to sell their products. And that's furniture as well. And that's a category that we've worked with for a very long time. But so what that effectively does is, we're just making it easier for people to make changes and adapt new things, adapt to new ways of buying products and accessing services. And that's I think, going to be a very important aspect of how all of media changes. The medium and the message, I think that convergence, I think that's what AI also does for us, is that it brings those two aspects very tightly together, right? There was a time when we looked at, I mean, we still do, we have a creative department, you have a creative function, you have art and copy, and you have media planning, and you have digital, and so on and so forth. And then you see those lines blurring and you don't see, and that's the only way to see it today, right? So we are in an era of the analytical thinker. It's a bit like how Daniel Pink put it. You've got this guy with, and the art and science bit, sorry, yes, as Kishan mentioned, that struck a chord. You've got a doctor who has, who's got a palette and a paintbrush in his hand. And I think this kind of thinking is going to be critical to the changes that we see happening. We're probably going to see a lot more personalization, of course, of content. But I think, I'd like to think that we're also a very, in India, we're a very, we're actually a discerning bunch, right? Regardless of languages and cultures. And I think we'll see a lot of drop-offs. We'll see a lot of changes as far as that goes. The media industry has just exploded, and it is going to clean up a little bit. And I think that change that we're going to see is going to be a little dramatic at the end of 5 years.
Right.
Shine, if I may just add a point there.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that at least I would love to see in the next 4 or 5 years is this, while on the other hand, and again, it's coming back strangely to the art side of it and not the science side of it, because I think the science side of it, Riya and Nagesh beautifully captured, is that somewhere in between, amidst all this precision and analytics and technology and all of that, there is this whole understanding of culture and what are those points of deeper engagement by geographies, so that we can get our messages far more, far better comprehended and engaged upon, right? That's something which is, so for example, if soccer is big in some parts of the country, then so be it. Or there are festivals and there are many different aspects of the culture and their subcultures, which I think somewhere we were trying to put it on the back burner. But with all the help that we have with AI and the process and technology and all of that, I think it should make a comeback. And the direct impact of that will be, for example, look at our large print players in this country. And I keep discussing this whenever I meet some of the large newspaper owners in the country or all of that, right? So they have been in the market for 50 years, some of them 100 years, 60 years, 80 years, and they've been connecting with the reader for every single day, right? So they, and about everything, right? Regional sports and culture and this and that and the other, right? And today the format of advertising is changing and they are feeling the pinch. But what is their biggest asset is they are probably the culture custodians. So the editor of the newspaper actually knows a lot about a consumer probably than a head of a research agency, probably, right? And when you bring all of them together, today we have a triangle of, there is a brand and there is an agency and there is a media partner and there is some sort of a relationship between them. Thankfully, it has moved from transactional to some sort of a partnership, long way to go. But I think that partnership also will get redefined as we go along. So imagine if you want to launch a brand in particular part of India, and if you go to the media partner and create everything from unearthing the consumer insights to creating a proposition to coining the thing to finding out what are the media levers that you can pull, and then launching it, and then listening back and making changes is something that I wish will happen. And with the aid of everything that we have, which we are mastering anyways, right, with this technology or processes, data and all of that, I would love to see that happening, because then it will, otherwise it's just the same thing getting it is so sad that the dubbing industry is still growing as much as it should be having a meaningful change in. So the same creative which is made in one place is just dubbed and showcased in another place, which should not be the case, right? I mean, a very, very basic way of explaining it may be wrong, but I'm saying that partnerships need to evolve much better. I would feel, and everybody has to take ownership in that. It's not just about the media partner, it's about the agency and the brand, and everybody needs to understand that. I think if that happens, then it will become far more meaningful. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds very good.
Sorry, please continue.
No. I thought that was a fantastic point, and I think it's something for all of us to actually think and probably internalize and move forward. Yeah, that was just my point.
All right.
And it can't happen with oldies like us. It has to happen from people who are coming and asking questions, saying, "Why can't this be done like this? Why do you have to do it like this?"
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So, Miss Mona, you have worked in the HR and other industries before entering into media agency. So how does the skill need differ in the media industry?
So obviously, right, different industries and, they require different skill sets, right? The talent pool is completely different.
Right.
And I can roll off a whole list of things that we look at while hiring in media. And I can list off a whole lot of different skill sets which are required when you're hiring in technology, right? But ultimately, what we really need to remember is it's all about being B2H. So it's not about being B2B or B2C. We are in the profession of being B2H. And ultimately, all industries, if you take a look at, it's all about reaching out to humans. So when I say B2H, I'm referring to business to human. Right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, it always reaches out to the end consumer, ultimately is a human. So it's all about, like, Kishan mentioned and Riya mentioned, and even Nagesh touched upon it, is that ultimately it's all about how do we cater to human needs and their requirements, and be it regional content or be it, anything else. So you are trying to meet those needs, and the skill sets that you require when you come into any industry needs to fulfill that. Right? So you have to Kishan's talked about art and science and mixing those up. So be it, your marketing certifications, or be it your, data science or statistics or Excel sheets and so on and so forth. The list is never ending, but ultimately it's about the passion that you have, right? It's about the passion that you bring to the table to connect to that end consumer. And that is the success factor, honestly.
Right. So I think my next question, you've partially answered it, but I'm going to ask it again. So as you said, you look at, like, there is a long list of things that you would look at before hiring a media person in an agency, right? So is there anything very specific in a particular candidate that makes them stand apart, or that, like, okay, now this guy, I want this, or this girl, I want this in my industry, or this, something that is very underlining, or what is it that makes you hire them other than what it is in their resume?
So Shaheen, that's a very good question, right? So if you think about it, as being part of HR or as being part of talent acquisition, you're inundated with hundreds of resumes, right? Every single day.
Right.
So you're going through all those resumes and they're reading out the exact same thing, and some of it stops making sense after a certain point of time because it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
The industry that you're in, or what you're studying to do, it's about standing out. How do you reach out to your consumer? How do you reach out to the end person that you want to reach out to? So Shaheen, if you want to reach out to me, how is it that you're going to make sure that you're reaching out to me where I actually stop and say, oh, wait, let me take a look at Shaheen's resume because she brings something different to the table that no one else has spoken about. Or, there is something, the way her resume is formatted, or the kind of skill sets, or the kind of projects that she's worked on. How is she showcasing that versus the others? Is it lost in translation? Is it just lost in all verbiage? Or is it actually there is some gravitas? Right? So when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing, okay, Shaheen brings an attitude to the table.
Okay. Yeah. So, but that reflects on a resume?
Absolutely. You'll be surprised. I get at least 50 people reaching out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I'm very sorry to say this, but I don't read all the messages, not because I don't want to, but because I really genuinely don't have the time.
Right.
But there will be one or two messages that come to me where I'll be like, okay, this person has something very, very different because, the way they have marketed themselves.
Okay.
Ultimately, you're marketing yourself in every single platform. Even HR, even talent acquisition, it's a marketing function. End of the day, if you think about it, because you're marketing your companies, right? What we are doing over here is we are marketing to our brands. We're marketing our brands. We're trying to reach the end consumer. So how is it that you're going to make yourself stand out in the crowd? And how is it that you're going to reformat your resume? So if all resumes look the same, it's not going to be fun going through them, right? But you need to, what is it that you're really passionate about? And bringing that aspect out. And that is what is the most critical thing when you're applying for jobs, or be it, even if you've done the certifications, how you're using any of those aspects in changing your resume, or if you're very data centric, how is it that you're changing your resume to make that come forward? And that is game changing.
Okay. So adding Mr. Kishan to this discussion, I just wanted to know, there is something, the X factor that you bring to the table, but we had done a poll on our social media platform, and one question had specifically come that, do we need to particularly learn a certain application or a software or something that will add on to what they have already done?
So the answer is yes and no, in the sense that there are a lot of we are moving towards a digital first sort of a media environment, right? So there are a lot of certifications or courses that you could do on understanding some of these platforms. Those are all basics, right? I think that will help. But I think if you are, as a fresher, if you are going attending an interview, and if somebody like me is looking for, what am I looking for? An X factor part, I think Mona has explained it. I think the curiosity and the willingness to learn is something that, because we're not looking for somebody who's an experienced person, right? And the openness to learn, the curiosity, these are two large factors in this industry, because unlike a lot of industry like manufacturing or others where there are set processes, every day is very different, right? Every brief is very different from an advertiser. Every solution will be very different, right? So there is a whole, the attitude and that agility to learn, or the willingness to learn, and the curiosity to learn. These are things which we look at. And this might sound very English, right? But that's how it is. For example, like Mona said, like I used to go to my college, Maika, with Mona's team to recruit for our freshers, right? Because we go to a lot of colleges, and one of the colleges happens to be Maika. And I could see the drift of the change in the kind of people there, right? Earlier, it used to be a lot more diverse candidate, but now there are a lot of engineers who are coming in, like typical B schools, right? But that is again leading to a certain sameness, right? How do we then find out? Because it is easy to learn software. It's not rocket science. Softwares can be managed in a few weeks. There is no software that we have built ever in this industry that can't be learned in a matter of weeks. None. But if you can showcase, like Mona said, the passion or the curiosity, I think curiosity is important because curiosity is inherent to this industry, because you are a problem solving industry and you are being paid to solve the problem, and you are, like Riya said, you're playing with somebody else's money to solve that problem. Hence it is important to be curious and to seek, okay, is there another way, is there something else? And that curiosity, if you reflect in the way you are presenting yourself, I think half the battle will be won. So yeah,
Right.
that's what I think.
So, Miss Mona, you would like to add something?
No, I think Kishan did a great, phenomenal job of covering it. I think he's very, very good at raising passion for everyone around. So yeah, nothing to add over there.
All right. So I would like to involve Miss Riya here into this, like, changing media consumption points to changing skill requirements. So what would you suggest we look at while preparing for our jobs in post-pandemic era, especially in terms of soft skills?
Right. Okay. So I think it's if it is about soft skills, I think Kishan has really taken that above. So now, if you look at media or advertising as a profession, right? The first two things that actually goes in and are probably passion and motivation. And motivation is probably something which is probably going to be inherent, right? So the moment you can actually establish that you are passionate about what you want and what passionate about working for a particular brand, and you have established that, and that is probably, that's the end of the interview over there itself. After that comes your skill, performance, all those things comes much way below that. And as Kishan said, the rest of it are stuff that you can learn on the job. So in fact, when I was quitting my first job, so I had a fantastic leader who came and said, listen, it doesn't matter if you want to go, you've decided, you can go, but just remember, you just get the right people with the right attitude. It doesn't matter, you can just give them talent, give them training, give them all sorts of intellectual analytical stuff, no problem. But if you get the right person with the attitude, your job is like 75% done. So I think if you can bring out attitude, whether it is through the written word in a resume, like Mona said, or while you're doing that interview, I think that's it. You probably will. You should sail through, provided there's an opening.
Right. So I would just like to tell the audience watching this, we may go a bit off for a while because I think we'll be exceeding our time. So, but we will be back on the live stream. Okay, so continuing that, Mr. Nagesh, yours is a full service agency. Most of the interaction with client is carried out by client servicing team. How do they keep abreast of media and changes in media?
Oh dear. Okay. So the thing is, I suppose I've seen a whole bunch of client servicing people, right? Right when I was just a writer with a management degree, but and I was very interested in media, so I used to crunch numbers that used to come on those little discs, floppy disks in those days, time data. And that was a point when so here you in an agency you actually had a copywriter who was going to the media division and taking those floppy disks and crunching data. That was something that I used to do because I didn't have client servicing people who did that, and your whole effort was to tailor your copy and your work, your creative work, as sweetly as possible to whoever you're trying to reach. It's nice to see that some of that has evolved into mainstream schooling. Every time because of this this discussion, I dug a little bit and I got to see what kind of things are being taught. I feel a very important skill is design thinking, right? And design thinking is something that we are employing in our firm on a routine. And a lot of it comes out of conceptual discussions. When we're looking for people, we're also looking for people who are critical thinkers. It's a little hard to spot critical thinkers on a resume because there's projection and there is what is, and a lot of a lot of people that we have are not necessarily conversationalists till you actually want to break it down for them. And what we try to do is build that kind of framework thinking, right? So that's everything that has been already said. There's a little bit of curiosity necessary, but it's also how to problem solve, and design thinking is a way to try and problem solve, right? And it works for anything. Which school would you put your child into? Which cell phone would you buy? How would you reach this consumer in Indore? So we've instituted a process, and the rest, a lot of it is up to them, right? So if I'm sure that we've got people who are doing that kind of thinking and are able to break down problems, then and honestly, that's for all jobs. It doesn't have to do with, I'd like the security guard to do that because of COVID. There are changes automatically in his systems, and has he understood what it could therefore mean? And that really extends right across the board, right? It doesn't matter who we really are. And we can institute a process for it up to a point. Staying abreast, I think today is easier. We do have tools. We have a fair amount of workshops internally as well. There's a lot of sharing happening. And sharing is an important way, I think, of building a collaborative spirit in understanding the changes in the profession. A little bit like this, having a conversation and learning things, and I'm learning things too, all the time. So that's what I look for, and that's how we do it.
Okay, so there is one question from our YouTube live audience for you. I think this relates to a question that you had answered previously. So I don't know who they asked, you made an interesting observation about community consumption becoming individual consumption. In that context, the move to create communities on social media is a bit ironic, right? That's what the viewer wants to know.
Wasn't that the whole point of Facebook in some way? There are certain kinds of communities that wanted to create, and it's become something more. Yeah, well, the advent of us going back to different forms of communities is inevitable, right? Like I said, a lot more content, a lot of media consumption will become more personalized, which really means device changes, right? When Elon Musk goes to Mars, and he will, the whole communications technology world is going to shift as well because of innovations that have to happen. Things will become significantly faster for everyone. I don't think we're going to lose the human aspect in our lives, right? And I think the pandemic has also taught us that. Right. We've realized the importance of community in a completely different way. I don't think that's going to change, but what will change is how picky we are about building these communities. We have little subcultures and little tribes that we've built for ourselves. We don't completely realize them, but we are that way. And, we're seeing that in Facebook as well, right? There's a drop. Young people were not so keen to get onto Facebook. because it was viewed as being the medium of their parents, and so on and so forth. And that's inevitable, but communities will stay. And I think communities will become stronger because of the likes that they share, the affinities that they share. But I'm part of a Star Trek community globally, talking to people I would never have otherwise met. And some of them I've got to know really well, right? So it is a very interesting notion, but that's really what's going to happen.
If I may add, I think there is nothing wrong in creating communities. I don't think it is ironic or anything. I think it is about what will brands do after that. I think that's where the challenge is, right? I think there were times where we were trying to do too much after building communities. Like if you go to Clubhouse today, and there are enough and more conversations around, because people want to express, they will continue. People, whether they are individual, highly individualistic, they will still want to be some part of community. But I mean, majority of them, I'm saying, right? And that need will continue. Now, if you are Red Bull and if you are in the adventure space, you might be selling an energy drink, but you are in the adventure space and you want to create a community and let them have fun, and you don't get into it and dictate the terms of the community, it's great. As against you create a community and then you start dictating terms and all of that, then I don't know. Then people are these days ruthless and they will not forgive you for that. So that's the thing. That's the only thing. So I don't think there's anything wrong in creating communities, and brands should continue creating communities. But what you do with that and how much you get involved, what value will you add to that? I think that will actually be more interesting, I would say.
Right. Miss Mona, I think this is the burning question from all the students and all the viewers. We desperately want to know that if you look specifically to hire freshers, or does experience on resume matter?
So I think it really depends on a company, right, Shaheen? So it depends on the scale of the company. And we have a healthy mix where we look for freshers along with people who have that kind of experience in the industry, right? So you cannot say that, oh, we don't hire freshers or we only hire people with experience, because you have to have both sorts in order to bring a different mindset to the work culture. Now, if you hire people, if everyone has experience, they are also set in their molds in some ways, and they have a certain thought process. When you hire freshers, they bring a very different and a very creative thought process to the work environment. Right now, I mean, they're also a target group, right? So we're also catering to their needs. So they might be coming with ideas which we want to tap into, right? We have a program like a performance rookie program where we only hire freshers who are interested in marketing and are passionate about it and have the marketing certifications. They could be from engineering backgrounds, so they could just have those certifications. And we train them for 6 months. Right. So because we also want to learn from them. Right. So at any company, when you hire people, you don't want to just keep hiring the same like-minded people, because then there's no innovation which is happening. There's no creativity which is coming to brands and to the work that you're doing. So ultimately, all of us, be it any industry or be it any company, and I think everyone over here will agree with me, that it's all about bringing creativity and innovation to your thinking, to your thought process, to the work that you do.
Right. So continuing with a thought that you said that experienced people come in with a certain set of predisposed notions of how they want to work, right? So how resistant are they to the change that a certain when they shift from a certain company with a certain set of rules?
Okay, so this is my personal thought process, and it does not, this is just the way I think. I feel humans in general are very resilient, and they can at any given point of time, they're very flexible.
Right.
Look at, India as a country. Everyone's very flexible. Everyone during the pandemic, everyone went online. The media industry would never exist offline, right? I mean, they were always, existing offline. They were never online. They were always, it was all about, being in the office, working together, having those creative reviews, constantly thinking, constantly interacting with one another. And all of a sudden, they were thrown into a situation where they didn't have any choice but to work online. Right? Be it people who are experienced, be it freshers, be it anyone, that was the only way they've been working like this for the past year and a half. So I think even if when I said that they bring a certain thought process to the table, they bring their experience to the table, right? Which does not mean to say that they will not learn new experiences. So for example, I myself come from a technology world, right? And I moved into media. So I did bring my thought process to the media industry, but at the same time, I also learned a lot. You're constantly learning. It never changes. No matter if you're 50 or you're 60 or you're 30 or 20, right? You'll constantly keep learning. Like Nagesh said over here, right? That it's good to be on forums like these because you're also learning. You're also seeing other people's thought process and you're taking away from that. Right. So I don't think they're set in their ways from that perspective, but they bring some kind of experience to the table, which from whatever they have experienced in their careers, which can be obviously used.
Like on the same lines of discussion, there was a question from our audience that how can one navigate themselves in media industry if they want to make a switch from non-media industry, like suppose pharmaceutical, and how much role does leadership or HR play in it to help them sort of get to the groove of a media agency?
So if they're so when we talk about media, right, it's very broad based. There's so many different skill sets and functions within media. So what is it that they really want to do? Which side do they want to go into? Planning? Do they want to go into strategy, buying, so on and so forth, right? There's so many different functions. So first of all, I think it's very critical when you're making a career move from pharma or from any other industry into media, you need to be very clear in your thought process in terms of what is it that you want to do. I have friends who have moved from finance into, being strategic planners at advertising agencies at the age of 30, right? I have friends who have moved from being TV anchors to moving into planning. So it's not like you can't do it. You can obviously always do it. But the one thing that you need to keep in mind is passion. I think a lot of us have spoken about that. You need to be passionate about this. If you're passionate about this and you are very clear in your thought process as to what is it that you want, which direction you want to go into, is it buying, is it planning, is it, anything trading or whatever it may be, or programmatic or anything else, then you just start working towards it. You do the right certifications. HR obviously helps. I would not dismiss a resume if they don't have that thought process. If they write to me telling me, I'm very passionate about doing this and I want to do this, I will work with that person. Why not? I will try to make it happen for them. Why not? Because we want a different thought process, right?
Yeah. Right. Mr. Nagesh, I would like to involve you in this, that how much of a role does leadership play if somebody wants to look for a career shift like this? Like a completely different career shift. Suppose like this like person who asked a question asked from pharmaceutical, how can they make their way to a media agency?
Okay. I might be the wrong person to be asking that. So when I was in Joseph's, right, while I did my bachelor's, at the same time, I did an honors degree in astrophysics, and I did an honors, I had an honors in English Lit and in entomology in my third year. So I'm very happy to meet people with different professional backgrounds, because they, there was a belief at one point that if you're an engineer, your analytical thinking is generally tutored a little differently. And then the next step was, if you have a management degree, if you have an MBA, likewise, you can fit into this industry far more easily. Right alongside that time, and just before that, advertising was about dropouts, right? If you couldn't get a job in something that was very steady and stable, advertising was always an option. But you needed to have a certain amount of ability, which really was an attitude, right? An attitude to think a little differently, be a little street smart, and understand people. David Ogilvy is a very good example for the students, I think, right? In his late 30s is when he actually switched into advertising. So I quite welcome people who are walking into the industry with their eyes open, you know, and we take that effort in ensuring that they do walk in with their eyes open, and it takes a few conversations. I have absolutely no problems, and we've had all sorts of types, and they've been very good at their jobs. They are very good at their jobs. I think if you've got a good conceptual approach to being a professional through experience, real experience, and you're interested in what this field offers, one will easily fit. There's always training, of course, but that's all right.
Yep. Just a point to add to that. I think what will help probably for people who want to make that switch is to understand basic codes of the profession. Right? There will be certain basic codes of whether it is advertising and media. Let's say, for example, loosely, it is about understanding consumer behavior and then trying to find a solution around that. Right? It's about, then hence the curiosity angle comes in. Your observation about people around you comes in. Your basic understanding about how the media is. I mean, you don't have to be a media professional to understand that everybody's watching OTTs these days. I mean, you don't have to. You might not be able to put a number to it, but you know that the shift is happening today, right? I mean, that's basic sort of observational skill. I think what will help is, even if you're in pharma, and if you try to decode some of those fundamentals of every category, and that can differ, right? Manufacturing is very different from, let's say, hotel. Hospitality is very different from advertising, and hospitality and advertising both are service industries, but it's very different in that sense, right? I think if you can crack or understand, I'm not even expecting crack, say understanding that code, and then try to see that, okay, do I have enough skill sets, like Mona was saying, do I have enough skill sets that can match this? Okay, I'm a curious person at heart. Great, that sort of connects, right? I try to create solutions based on some of my inherent understanding. Okay, that fits. That helps. Then the rest can be. That's rest is again all the other things that we said, passion and all of that. So.
Right. Miss Riya, can you talk to us a little about how can we strike a balance between like a work-life balance? Because we as students and as outsiders from the industry, we constantly hear that it's a very fast-paced industry, it's a very demanding industry. So then how do you strike a like work-life balance? And Miss Mona, you can pitch in anytime.
Okay, so in media as well as in any other profession, and and I don't want to really keep media and advertising separately. Any other profession where you need to either fully or partially apply your intellect, right? And this is something which we've all beaten to death. We need to bring passion to our work life, right? So if you have all of that, then I think it's very easy to strike that balance, because it's something you're doing something which you really love, right? And also the other thing is, it really depends on your team leader and the people that you work with, etc. Between all of you, you put down a process, you streamline your procedures, etc. And I think work-life balance is something which we can definitely work out and move forward with. So if you really love your job, I think it's doable. And I will also tell you why examples. When I started off itself, our deal among our team was we will slog it out Monday to Friday, really slog it out because there is a lot of work. And Saturday, Sunday is something which is like a power off kind of a day, right? Saturday, Sunday, we will not call each other unless, of course, there's like some really major emergency. And the client also agreed to it. Okay, so Monday to Friday, totally slog it out. And if you ask me after an 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and I'm talking about pre-pandemic, it's more about team building, camaraderie, maybe go out for a dinner and a drink, maybe, that's what happens most of the time. So I totally enjoyed that time, when we did do that thing. And then I took my 2 maternity breaks. Okay, so I would say I actually took a decision of taking a complete break. Then I came back. I said I will do only half day. Of course, I took a salary cut. Obviously, I can't expect a full time whatever. But then that was again something which, and I joined an agency, and that was something which I agreed with them, saying that this is the work-life balance that I wanted. I wanted to work, but I also wanted to look after my baby, right? The second time I said I will do only 10 to 5, right? And after 5, I will have to go back home. And of course, I will log in from home, etc. So, there's always that financial conversation, then, your alignment with your team, your client, etc. And then just move on. And here I am 17 years later, 2 kids, and I still love what I'm doing. And, I think that's what it is. It's, we can, cribbers, you don't have to really crib about it, right? Let's put it out there. You don't have to do that. If you really love what you're doing, and that's the important part, you have to really love what you're doing, and then, everything falls into place. That's about it, right?
Yeah. So just to add to whatever Riya is saying, so I completely agree with that. Right? And I think it's a little unfair to think that work-life balance or long hours are only found in media.
True.
Because if you've been part of tech, you will know that they work 48 hours, 38 hours at a stretch when they have to launch a product or anything needs to go out. So this transgresses over all industries. Okay, it's not specific to one industry because that's just the nature of the work and it's all about passion. But ultimately, I also very strongly feel that you have to drive your own work-life balance. So it's a choice which you make. And you cannot really blame others. And if you're passionate, work is work. And if you're passionate about it, some students prefer studying late night, and whereas some students prefer studying early morning, right? But they're all studying. So you can't say, well, this person studies a lot more because they're studying in the night. You're studying in the morning, so you're not studying that much. So you really can't compare, right? It's a personal choice. So you have to put those boundaries and set those boundaries for yourself versus, after a certain point of time, I just can't keep my eyes open. So even if someone calls me, well, I'm sorry, but my eyes aren't open, I'm asleep. So I can't help it. Even if you call me at 10 o'clock, I won't be able to answer the phone. I will definitely get back to you at 6 o'clock, but you're going to be sleeping at that point of time.
Right.
So, I think you have to set your own boundaries ultimately, whatever industry you may be, even if you choose to be part of media and advertising, or if you choose to be part of tech or whatever it may be, you have to set your own boundaries.
Right.
Just a last point on that, sorry. The reality, yes, is that it is an industry which works probably longer than some of the other industries which has set timings. The reason for it is because it's a very dynamic industry, right? Things keep changing, and it's not like you cannot compare May of this year to the same time of last year or even the previous month for that matter, right? So it keeps changing, and that the dynamic part of the industry what it makes it a little chaotic, so to say, right? Having said that, I think what the last 12-13 months have done is asking some of the fundamentals of work-life balance, right? I also strongly believe what Mona said. It is a choice, and it is something that you control and your immediate surroundings control, company, team, and all of that. But having said that, at a very larger level, there are things which need to get better in the industry, which is changing thanks to the new generation of the people who have joined us. So the people who are, let's say, 0 to 5 years of experience currently in this industry, their triggers and their drivers are very different from some of the others, right? Earlier, so-called experienced people like us in the industry, and that is very clear. So they have very clear choices, and that is so that will take. It's an evolving piece. So there are things which should be better, which will get better over a period of time. But again, it's also a question of choice, of your choice. So I'll shut up now.
Thank you. No, that's okay. We will love to listen, but we are sadly running out of time here. So just a last bit to Miss Mona. As you said that it is our choice, right? We'll have to stop at some point. And Miss Riya also said that, I asked for a 10 to 5 work day. So from an HR point of view, how comfortable would an HR be to let them have that leeway of like timings and all of that choice?
So I think it's like Kishan said, right? It's the demand of the work. Like Riya said, it's the passion that you bring to the work, right? So if you're passionate about what you're doing, even if as HR, I'll tell you, no, you're overworked, don't do it. But if you're passionate about it, you'll continue doing it. If you're the kind of, it really depends on the kind of person that you are, right? I cannot drive a decision for someone. Even if I give you a power of day, but if you choose not to take it, that's a personal choice. So even though I'm HR, I cannot drive or I cannot hammer it down into your brain saying, no, you cannot work, get off from working. You're not well, get off your calls, but they'll still be working. So it's something which is very individualistic, and I don't think can be driven by HR. We can guide. HR is there to guide you, right? And to provide you with solutions. But ultimately it's your choice, however you want to take it forward.
Absolutely. We have a lot of questions. Sorry? Okay. So we have a lot of questions coming in from our YouTube, but sadly we have run out of time. Absolutely.
Shaheen,
yeah.
I'm sorry to jump in, but
yeah, okay.
I don't want to let this go because of the students, perhaps.
Okay.
But there's one thing: if you develop good skills and you're really good at the profession, at your job, very simply, the work-life balance will come. And that's really the way to see it. And a lot of young people are not able to quite understand that connection, and you have to invest to be able to earn, perhaps, is one way to look at it. And that's an important aspect. If you're committed to being really good at what you do, you'll be able to make that work-life balance happen. That's almost automatic.
Well summed up to all the discussion. There are questions, but I think I'll be addressing this to our audience that we would love to answer them, I'm pretty sure. But we have sadly run out of time, so we'll have to leave that here. So if they have more questions, the audience, if you have more questions, please leave them in the comments and we'll get back to you on our social media pages. We'll have all of these professionals only answer those, and we'll give the answers on the social media page. So now I would like to hand over to Anmol to say the last word. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks, sorry.
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. I'm Anmol, one of the students of APR 20 batch, and I would like to extend my gratitude to the panelists who so generously took out the time from their busy schedules to help us students understand more about the media industry and the skills that we need to enter this demanding yet exciting world. Our management faculty, Dr. Father Richard Rigo, supported us throughout the course of this event. Professors Praveen Paul and Sam Murthy mentored us and guided us with inputs for the content and helped with spreading the word about this discussion. Ajay sir, without you, a smooth transmission of the discussion wouldn't have been possible today. And most importantly, Seema ma'am, who guided us from idea to execution, working alongside the students every step of the way. To all these faculty members, a special note of thanks from all of us. Here's a brief intro to the event management team that worked behind the scene relentlessly to see this event to conclusion. Creatives, banners, adaptations by Anjita, content for public relations, social media by Rachel Ryan, the social media team consisting of Karen, Rachel, Anjita, and Lubna, who handled posting content and promoting across various platforms. Dennis, Roshan, and myself, Anmol, handled the event promotions, and our moderator for the day, Shaheen. 3 cheers to APR 20 students and faculty members for cheering us on and supporting us relentlessly. In the end, I would like to thank all the participants who have attended this program. Watch out for more events in the future and let us know in comments if you would still have more questions. Thank you. Have a great day ahead and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Yes.
That was superb, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Ajay, have you stopped it? Ajay, have you stopped live streaming?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.